Welcome, video heads, to another episode of Dueling Decades. First off, representing December of 1992.
I'm Bo Beecraft, fighting alongside Mike Ranger.
Hello.
What do we decide on the team name? Are we going Jason Priestley's Cock, I believe, is what we're going with this week.
And my partner, who I will be representing December of 1983 with.
That's right. I'm Rick Mancrush, and I will be partnering up with Mark James, and we are the Mama Loops.
Yes, it's your very own Ginger Santa coming at you on this Christmas special edition December Dueling Decades. Judge John Cross. Hi, everybody. Hello.
The highest scoring game in the history of the National Basketball Association.
Paramount's Big Gamble with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Britain's Prince Charles and Princess Diana released a statement announcing their separation after 11 years of marriage.
Amy Fisher was sentenced to 5 to 15 years in prison after being found guilty of shooting and wounding Mary Jo Buttafuoco.
I'm going to go with December 83. I think that those two news stories probably had more impact on the world as a whole over the course of the next 35 years.
People engaged, it's time for Dueling Decades. The Matrix and Blade versus Bloodsport and Renegade. Strap on that cap, bust out the power glove. Come fight for what you love. Dueling Decades. Poop culture, popping pins, dropping hand grenades. Van Halen locked in Mortal Kombat with David Gray. Banner Ballet and Sick, Iron Maiden, GNR. Come fight for what you love. Dueling Decades.
All right. Music. On December 3rd, 1983, just a week after wrapping up their self-financed 3-week studio session, two-time Grammy Award-winning metal band Slayer released their debut album, Show No Mercy. This entire album was done on the backbone of lead singer Tom Aradia's savings account, and they borrowed some money from Kerry King's father. And they literally banged this entire album out in 3 weeks, and the rest was history. Metal Blade Records signed them up. The album was a huge success. They sold 40,000 copies worldwide. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you compare this to Metal Blade Records average selling 5,000 copies a month of all their acts together. And Slayer was only known via tour, which was only done pretty much locally in California at the time, and word of mouth. You know, and this band, they went on to release 12 studio albums over the next 30 plus years. They just finally finished out in 2018 with their final tour. They sold millions of albums over that span. They're one of the most influential metal bands of all time, and they made a huge impact on the mainstream metal, and they've never had any radio play, and obviously little help from MTV. So it was a pretty monumental album.
Nice. Good pick. Can't go wrong with Slayer, man. It's fucking Slayer.
Raining Blood, Slayer.
Have any of you else besides me seen Slayer in concert? The one
Yes.
fucking hippie here, and I've seen Slayer.
Yeah, well, you can't anymore, but if you have, it's an event.
I've seen the movie Slayer, but no, I've not seen this.
Oh man, you should rent it on VHS. I'm sure there's a bunch out there.
Although actual Slayer concert, much more violent than the movie Slayer.
Oh, probably.
So
Surely.
All right,
a lot more hair.
a lot more hair. So for my pick here, December 5th, 1983 is the original release date for the 5th studio album by German heavy metal band Accept, entitled Balls to the Wall, and carrying the title track of the same name. Attaining gold certification in the United States, although it never scored another hit, Balls to the Wall instantly became a hard rock anthem for the band, and it remains popular to this day. Some of the album's success, though, can in no doubt be attributed to the publicity that it gained from the controversy that broke out upon its American release due to the record's title and front cover being deemed by some as homoerotic, with lyrics and songs titles including Balls to the Wall, of course, London Leather Boys, Love Child, and Head Over Heels. Guitarist Wolf Hoffman was dismissive of that controversy. In an interview with Metal Gear magazine, he said, "We've always been interested in politics and human rights and things like that. So all of our lyrics we had in those days, and well, to the end, actually, were dealing with human rights. For instance, and In reality, it's what balls to the wall means. One day, the tortured will stand up and kick some butt. So not actually about gay sex, but, about the oppressed rising up again. I don't see how people would confuse those. I just,
There are actually
heard
radio
that.
stations that are banning the song currently because it promotes testicular masochism.
If you've ever seen the cover, my sister owned this growing up, and when Mark brought this to me, I go, "Oh yeah," and I know the cover because if you look at it, it's a dude in like leather chaps. They're like leather underwear, and he's holding a ball in his hand. But when I was a kid, it looked like a cockhead.
Right.
So if you see, and it's black and white, so it just looks like a hand holding the dick in its hand. And I was like, how can they? But then I eventually figured out that it was just a ball.
Yeah,
And-
they knew what they were doing back then.
The weird thing is all the song titles on this album are also the same names as the chapter titles in my biography. That's what
Love Child.
London Leather Boys.
True. I'm still looking forward to Guardian of the Night, which is what I'm going to be in the future. That's going to be like my vigilante name. And then I'm going to end with Winter Dreams before I die in the snow of scurvy.
I cannot wait to read the chapter about the wedding that just happened. That one, of course, is entitled Balls to the Wall.
Balls to the wall, yes. Followed weirdly by London Leather Boys, but that's just some of the people who gate crashed my party.
All right, off to the 90s.
I went with the debut solo album by Dr. Dre titled The Chronic was released on December 15th, 1992 on Death Row Records, peaking at number 3 on the Billboard 200. This multi-platinum record features 3 singles, including a Nothing But a G-Thang. Also features the talents of the one and only Snoop Doggy Dogg. This album created the sound known as G-Funk and is considered one of the best produced hip-hop albums of all time. Perfection is certainly perfected, and that's why Bo and I are here to let them understand.
Never heard of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a hard one to argue with. That's
Dr. Dre, did you say?
He was with Ed Lover, right?
I could have said that. I'm pretty high, Rick.
Wow, great pick, Mike. You really can't argue with that, even though it was basically just Parliament Funkadelic's greatest hits remix. But hey, who's complaining?
Yeah, but Dr. Dre was on it.
He has.
Oh, okay.
Snoop Dogg wrote the whole album, but yeah.
Which is funny, Mark, because in 1982 there was a George Clinton album released. So,
Yes, there was.
Synergy.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Or like fucking coincidence.
Oh my God. So I got to hear what Bo's got, if that's what they start with.
I'm not a huge fan. I went through a phase with these guys, like I think everybody does. But December 14th, 1992, a compilation album of previously unreleased tracks, Nirvana's Incesticide, is released. The album includes tracks from 4 different drummers, which is kind of interesting because they were all recorded during different incarnations of the band. So you've got 4 different drummers on one album. Received generally positive reviews. 500,000 copies in its first 2 weeks were sold, and it went on to become certified platinum. This was released kind of at the peak of Nirvana's popularity, and a lot of people, at least the record heads, didn't want them to release it because they thought it would be a little too much Nirvana all at once. And I didn't realize until later in life that is much indeed a real thing.
It really was. Like, think about it. Nevermind, Incesticide, and then what's the one with Rape Me on it?
In Utero.
In Utero. We're like fucking back to back to back.
Yeah.
And then right after that, they had the Unplugged. Yeah, so there was a lot.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then he
good
died.
thing they hurried up and got all those albums out.
Maybe that's why they did it.
Wow, that's a solid pick, man. I had both of these albums. I had the Chronic, I had Incesticide. I still have the Chronic.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the ruling for this round.
Right. So the ruling for this round is a sad one for me because I'm just gonna come out and say it. It's going to December 92. It's sad for me because as anyone who knows me deeply and personally knows, I'm a huge lover of German metal music, especially because the members of the band have names like Wolf Hoffmann and Udo Dirkschneider. Who doesn't love that? But unfortunately, Balls to the Wall, one of my favorite album titles, cannot win this round, which is a shame. I know that somewhere the drummer for Accept from 1994 to 1995, Stefan Schwartzman, is crying into his sauerkraut. But in December 92. And I also just have to say as well, what is it with December? Not a lot of music released in December, apparently.
No,
December 83, pretty shitty. December 92, slightly more.